It's the Security Weekly News, episode 273. I'm Doug White, and it's Friday on the week of 5 February 2023, and I'm not in the studio, as you can see, because I have a cold. It's not COVID. It isn't. We've got Dysentery, or the bloody flux, as it used to be called, healthcare privacy, Gootloader, Bing AI, Vela, Bard, Russian jobs, Reddit, and Bradley Barth talks about Walmart. All this and more on the Security Weekly News.
This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for Security Weekly News.
How is your business staying one step ahead of cybercriminals? Secure your email applications, network, and data with Barracuda. Protect your business and go from zero to security in no time flat. Whether your team is working in one location or many, Barracuda has solutions that are easy to buy, deploy, and use. Learn how Barracuda can protect your business against ransomware, phishing, and other cyber attacks. Visit securityweekly.com/Barracuda. That's securityweekly.com/Barracuda. Barracuda, your journey secured.
All right, welcome to Security Weekly News. So I hate to tell you this, but in the battle of money versus privacy, money's going to win. I mean, that's pretty much true of anything that money versus. So money is going to win. So more healthcare operations are now being accused of selling patient data to Meta, Google, and other companies, including ones you really don't want your data sold to. Cerebral, which is a mental telehealth company, which I didn't actually know what that meant, and I had to look it up, but it's like basically they do consults on the internet, so you don't have to go into an office, and I guess a lot of this came out of the pandemic. But Cerebral, Monument, which is an online alcohol counseling and treatment provider, and Workit, which is a telemedicine provider for opioid and alcohol treatment, have all been accused now of providing significant amounts of sensitive user data to various third parties. These three sites together treated 250,000 or so patients in 2021 alone. There's another lawsuit against Cedars-Sinai, which is a big hospital chain in Los Angeles, and has been filed. They filed a lawsuit against them that claimed that they allowed patient data to be scraped from hospital websites using metapixels and, Meta. So there's a Senate committee in the United States investigating this. I wish they would just pass some privacy laws. Come on, guys. But the Senate committee investigating this said that the data was available for access to hundreds of thousands of developers and was also available to China and Russia. Yay. China and Russia already have everything on me. They do. The last time I was in Moscow, they tried to disassemble my passport. I'm not even making this up. They literally took like these needles and things. They ran my passport through all these different scanners, and they were pulling the threads out of my passport. I don't know what they were doing because I don't speak Russian. I needed somebody with me that did, but they kept asking me questions in Russia, and I just kept saying, "Yet." So, who knows what I admitted to. But anyway, they held me for about 45 minutes while they did all this. But I was with Russ, too. So, and whenever you travel with Russ, you just never know what may happen. Russ takes a lot of equipment with him. Otherwise, he's a good person to travel with. Gootloader is being used to target finance and healthcare sectors aggressively, according to the Cyber Reason Incident Response Team. They said that the threat level should be considered severe. I don't know what that means, but it sounds bad. Cyber Reason investigated an incident in December of last year in which they found that SEO poisoning techniques were being used to get victims to download malware payloads. And if you don't remember all these acronyms, and I know some of you know them all and some of you don't, SEO poisoning is a search engine attack that basically tries to drive links from the hostels to the top of the search results, which contain then malicious links. Gootloader is a piece of malware that looks like legitimate JavaScript code because of the way they put it together, but it acts as a loader front end. So in a sense, it is a legitimate piece of software. It just is often used for bad things. Gootloader's been around since like 2014. Anyway, the attackers created a bunch of websites and web forums, which look legit, but of course they host malware files. So this is a tried and true method of injecting malware into organizations. The SEO poisoning and Google ad service abuse have been being used a lot recently, according to Cyber Reason. So this is definitely something you probably want to get out to your people about these various attacks. So once Gootloader gets downloaded, it of course can be used to download anything that it has. It has the ability to download anything at all. But it's been typically being used to download Cobalt Strike and other rats and other malware, which then allows you to have remote control of the device. It's easy to say think before you click, but it's really difficult when you're searching for something and your tendency is just to click the top of the stack that comes back. I mean, when I need to know the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow or how to code a vector in C++, I tend to go with the top of the stack. But, you may want to warn yourself and your employees about looking at where those links originated, watching for, and it's just so tough because it's like watching for typo squatting, watching for all those things. And of course, these sites look legitimate. So definitely something we should be thinking about. How do we better prepare our employees for this kind of thing? Well, as promised on Tuesday, I reported this story, but as promised, Microsoft did announce Tuesday afternoon, I don't know what their thing is with Tuesdays, but a new version of Bing would be powered by OpenAI ChatGPT type things, but they said it would be more powerful than ChatGPT. They also said they would be using specific training for web searches to make this the best search engine around. The announcement referred to the search engine as AI Copilot, and I don't know if that's the name of it or that's just what they're referring to it as, but they said it would help people get more from search and the web. If you're interested in this, you at this point have to request to join the wait list, and there is a link in the article if you're interested. I don't know if there's a wait list going for it, but there probably is. They did say that this one will cite its sources, so this is a little bit different. If you recall, earlier this week, Bard, which is Google's AI search bot, basically, went down in flames, I guess, by that was trying to answer a basic question about the James Webb Space Telescope and misreported that the James Webb Space Telescope was the first to discover an exoplanet. Google's share price dropped by 100 million, or maybe it was 100 billion. It was some ridiculous amount. The shares plummeted when this thing screwed up. People really hold AI to high standards. I mean, how many people and humans have miscited something before? So, but we hold AI drivers and AI search engines to very high standards. But if this one is going to cite its sources, at least you can start to see what's going on. But it did include a warning that said Bing will sometimes misrepresent the information it finds, kind of like college professors, and you may see responses that sound convincing but are incomplete, also kind of like college professors, inaccurate, kind of like college professors, or inappropriate, definitely like college professors. So use your own judgment and double check the facts before making decisions or taking actions based on Bing's responses, which is pretty good advice, including about college professors. You don't have to just listen to what somebody says because they speak with authority. Anyway, Microsoft said they would move you ahead in the line if you downloaded their defaults program, which of course resets all your browsers and everything else to Edge and Bing, which I don't want to do anyway. But Bleeping Computer said they did try this and it did not get them immediate access, but it did improve their queue status. So, if you're interested in such things, it seems to be the coming storm. And along the same line, everybody's trying to get in on this AI game, right? So IBM, this was like AI week. IBM unveiled its AI supercomputer, which is composed of virtual machines running in the IBM cloud. Now, theirs is called Vela. I had no idea what Vela was, so I asked ChatGPT, but unfortunately ChatGPT is so bogged down that I haven't been able to get into the thing for a while. So I did what I should have done in the first place, which was use an old-fashioned dictionary. Vela is the plural of vellum. Now, I looked up definitions of vellum with one L, which was a little strange, because VELL is a different word. The three definitions were that, one, a covering or partition of thin membranous tissue, such as the veil of a mushroom, a rim of tissue around the margin of the bell of certain cnidarians, or a membrane of the brain. So insane in the AI membrane. It can also mean a ciliated swimming and feeding organ that develops in certain larval stages of most gastropod and bivalve mollusks. So like that thing on the front of those face huggers in Alien, that little kind of thing. Yeah, that thing. Who knows? But vellum, with two L's, is a kind of parchment paper that is made from calf skin. It's derived from the French word veau. Creepy, whichever way you slice it. Anyway, IBM said Vela was currently reserved for use by IBM research community members and has been running or had been the go-to environment at IBM since May of 2022. So they basically built a high-performance computing cluster using cloud-based nodes, and a whole bunch of technical details about how they built this thing on that article. So if you're interested in that kind of hardware and how you put together high-performance computing clusters versus, say, just straight virtual machines or whatever. So I guess everybody's going to have an AI pretty soon. I mean, I'm sure Elon, Bezos, and Richard Branson are all like screaming at their people to have them built as fast as possible. So we'll have, Virgin AI, Amazonian AI. I don't know what Elon will call his. Maybe he'll call it Nikolai. That'd be a good name for it. Yep, I saw a pale horse and its rider was a cluster-based AI. Yeah. Hopefully a fleet of Vogons will be passing by and we can get off this planet soon. Well, Russian threat actors are targeting crypto workers in Eastern Europe with fake job offers. The fake job offer scam has been around pretty much since Xerxes the Undying offered to get Amram a job in Sumeria for a finder's fee, and the job would be waiting when he showed up. And when Amram did show up looking for Apsu, everyone laughed and said, Apsu, right, you got taken, my friend. Anyway, these attacks have been sent out, and I like to report on them because you do want to, caution your people, even if you're not in Eastern Europe, because this stuff tends to spread. These attacks have an email which claims to be a job offer, as usual, and they have a RAR attachment, which contains a text file called interviewquestions.txt and an executable. We should just block anything with executables in it anyway. But the executable is called interviewconditions.word.exe. So they're trying to pull that little trick where you don't see the .exe off the screen because it doesn't fit in the box. Yeah. That was my guess as to why the name was so long. So interviewconditions.word.exe, they probably looked at the default box, pop-up box, and you can't see the exe, so people go, oh, it's a Word file, even though that's not it would have been better to put docx, but hey, what do I know? The text file has a bunch of legitimate seeming questions in Cyrillic characters. The executable, of course, basically it's an executable. It downloads Enigma from Telegram. And Enigma, if you don't know what it is an info stealer. Is a very effective info stealer, mind you. It targets system info, tokens, passwords in the web browsers, Chrome, Edge, Opera, you name it. It also gets data from Outlook, Telegram, Signal, OpenVPN, and it can also capture shots of your screen and clipboard contents. So it's a pretty nice tool. All the data then gets zipped up and is sent back via Telegram. So, it just disappears into that void. Trend Micro said that it had a strong confidence that a Russian attacker is behind the email. The scam is also commonly used by North Korean attackers, and I've certainly seen this being used by other people as well, or at least they appeared to be. I had one from a Chinese language speaker that apparently thought I could speak Chinese as well as they thought, but I've also seen a couple in English, so watch out. Anything that seems too good to be true probably is, or even if it's just reasonable, probably still a scam. Everything's a scam. Reddit was attacked on Sunday evening, and the attackers managed to access internal systems, steal documents, and source code. How did these amazing so-called hackers get in? Were they amazing and outstanding and using 0 days that they developed themselves? Of course not. It was phishing. A phishing lure which targeted Reddit employees with a landing page impersonating an internal Reddit site was focused on obtaining employee credentials. Imagine that. And it also was grabbing two-factor tokens. So it only took one single victim, and they were, of course, able to breach the internal systems. They did say there was no indication of a breach of the primary production systems, but that the attacker had access to internal documents code dashboards, and other business systems. Reddit was made aware after the employee self-reported. Now that's something you should strive for, is that employees would self-report things like this instead of being terrified to report. I mean, my experience with this is employees are terrified to report that they may have clicked something because they're worried they're going to get disciplined or fired. But this was great. They've established a trust, which is pretty cool. The stolen data includes limited contact information for company contacts and current and former employees, along with some details about advertisers, but they said it had no credit card, password, or ad performance information in it. Reddit has not shared any further details, but they referenced a very similar attack on Riot Games that occurred previously. Years ago, I worked for Alice Walton, and I even worked for Sam and Helen, who's Sam's wife, in good old Bentonville, Arkansas, on a couple of different consulting jobs. Well, Bradley Barth, who's the director of multimedia content strategy at SC Media, is going to join us to talk about his experience inside of Walmart itself, the Death Star. I don't think they call it that. You probably shouldn't call it that either. They won't let you in there anymore. But Bradley is also they won't let me in anyway. Bradley's the co-host of the new Cyber for Hire podcast, which is an MSSP podcast. Hi, Bradley.
Hey there, Doug. How's it going? So glad to be here today. Glad I could join your show.
Yeah, cool. It was great to have you on. So what you told me was you had been doing a series about Walmart, and I guess you went down to Bentonville and went inside. I've been in the data center before. My friend was doing consulting there a long time ago on like early big data stuff and neural net analysis of things. Was that where you went?
It was, in fact, yes. We were told on several occasions that this was an extraordinarily rare event, or they said really a first-time event, that someone who wasn't an active Walmart employee or a vendor partner that maybe had to sign an NDA to actually visit their East data center. Certainly the first time any media member has. And so, yeah, we took a tour of it was the David Glass Technology Center, which is the home of WGT, or Walmart Global Tech. And that tour included their East Data Center, which, of course, stores all of their highly sensitive information and data that they collect, along with their SOC and also their forensics lab.
Yeah, they didn't make you sign an NDA. I mean, when we went in there, we had to sign NDAs, and I think they actually made me like cut my palm and drip blood into like a receptacle.
Yeah, no, there was no NDA. That doesn't mean that we didn't have to go through several stages of security, because we certainly did there. And in fact, we were accompanied the entire time also by some physical security who pretty much would walk both in front of us and behind us, and just make sure they kept an eye on us wherever we went. At one point, they took us into what they call their C floor, which is the part of the data center where they basically have the mainframes and the servers that collect all of their information related to security data and potential threats, and that's the area that's most often accessed by incident response and their One Lab forensics team. And that we got a pretty good close-up view of everything, but even then we were behind a caged partition. And then we were also allowed to take a peek into one of their cloud computing server rooms, but only from the outside of the room.
Well, yeah, I mean, we went into something like that a long time ago, but I know Lou was working on an algorithm that was trying to analyze like shoppers' behaviors or something like that. I mean, I think Walmart has reasonable security. Seems. I mean, they don't pay me, but it's like I don't see a lot of stories about Walmart. I mean, do you think that you felt like they have pretty good security in general?
Well, now you probably jinxed them, but and we'll end up seeing we'll see a story tomorrow on some
Yep.
kind of a breach. But no, they do certainly, they have their act together, it seems like. It was certainly impressive for them to explain to us really the array of initiatives and cyber innovations that they're working on. They do seem to like to be on the cutting edge. Walmart Global Tech itself, if you had just separated it from the rest of the company, and it's really just the division of the company that handles all of the internal, IT and cyber projects, it could be its own large Fortune 500 or 100 company itself, impressively. And they actually gave us quite a bit of insight into some of the various cyber initiatives that they're working on, which I'm happy to go into in further detail. But it does certainly seem like they want their bases covered, and the whole reason for them bringing us here was basically the narrative was they were really just trying to get across that trust is really their number one motto or objective that they're going for, earning the trust of consumers who share all of their data with the retailer, the trust of the associates and the employees and the vendors that work with Walmart to know that their data is secure. So it was interesting to hear some of the things they're doing in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I mean, it's totally spurious because I haven't researched it, but I mean, I really, surprisingly, I'm sure they're a massive target, but that's probably not a good way to say that. Is it target one of their competitors? But yeah, I wasn't trying to be clever. Sorry, Walmart, please don't come hurt me. But I mean, I do think that they've had a pretty good record because I don't think I've ever done a story about a breach or anything there. Not that I'm sure they've had them, but either that or they just keep the lid on all that stuff. So what was their big cybersecurity initiative they wanted you to see? You said they had a couple.
Yeah, I can go down the list for you a little bit because they were quite interesting. For starters, I think what particularly jumped out the most was just the work that they're doing in the area of CTI and quantitative risk assessment. What they kind of talked a little bit about there was just relying on this combination of both external feeds, but also doing a lot of their own unique intel collection methods to really get a strong picture of what the threat landscape is. And, they also do their part in, sharing with the community. And so, one of the things that they talked about quite a bit is that Walmart personnel has contributed to more than half of the source code of ViperMonkey, which is basically this open source Python-based VBA emulation engine that can deobfuscate and analyze malicious macros hidden in Microsoft Office files. And so, that's certainly one of the big tools that they use. One of three major malware tools that Walmart plays a major role in maintaining. There's also Box.js, which is a program that analyzes malicious JavaScript files, and Box.ps, which is used for scrutinizing PowerShell scripts. And then basically using these tools, their Intel experts they'll obviously look and see what's traversing, their networks, but also look at even public malware repositories and analyze downloaded files to see what kind of information they recover. And so they play a big role in both their own internal CTI and externally. And then basically, as they get a better sense of what some of the threats and risks are, they have a quantitative risk program where they're really able to do a great job of calculating what's highest priority, what represents the biggest threat. I remember speaking with a couple of the executives there saying that, there was some initial doubt among certain naysayers in terms of the ability for an organization, to really be able to execute quantitative risk in a meaningful way. But, they say they're doing it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And, in addition to that, a lot of innovation on the fronts of things like bot mitigation. They block 8.5 billion bots on I believe it's a monthly basis, if I have that correct. And things like IAM, where they're experimenting with things like password lists. Quite a bit. And then you even look at things like where they're trying to be on the cutting edge of technology with things like being in the metaverse or automated trucks and delivery drones and the security that has to go into sort of this, new frontier of innovation.
Yeah, they've always been really like, I went to school there and my dissertation advisor was a big, heavily involved with the family and all this stuff and had been there. But yeah, they've always been pretty progressive about analyzing data. And back then there wasn't really any cybersecurity components, but it was all about big data analytics. So I think they've maybe taken that idea that they were using there and pushed that into the security space. Are those tools available for free to people in the community, or is that just an internal thing?
Yeah, no, great question. The Viper Monkey and the other malware analysis tools to which I referred, they are open source tools, and so they are available to the greater community. It's just that Walmart happens to be a significant contributor to the coding and upkeep and maintaining of those particular tools. So yes, those are available to all.
Are there links to all that in your articles that you posted?
I don't have links to those three tools, although that's a great idea. We should actually add those in because I think that would be
I think a lot of people are always interested in tools like that and finding ways to them. And I know you posted your 3 parts of your series about that on the site, so we thank you for that. And thanks for coming in to talk about that a little bit. That's I'm sure that was fun. It sounds fun.
Yeah, no, it was very eye-opening, and I had also just never been to that corner of the U.S. before. It was interesting to get a chance to just see the city of Bentonville grow. I likened it a little bit to a couple of years ago. I visited Hershey, and it was just this city that grew off of the vision of this. One man, and Bentonville's a more modern version of that, where it's just sprouted and become this unbelievable metropolis from Sam Walton.
Yeah, no, it was. I actually did the consulting for that airport that you landed at in Bentonville for the FAA, and I know before I ever lived there, that was literally like a little one-street town that had the original Walmart store in the main street there. And now that whole area is just all Walmart, Stevens Transportation, and Tyson. All those families are from that little area. So Rogers, Arkansas, I went there, I don't know, years later, and it looked like, San Diego or something. It was crazy. So, yeah. It definitely grow. Well, thank you, Bradley Barth, for coming on. I'm sure we'll have you on again sometime soon. I appreciate your input and insight. And thanks, Doug. Finally, thanks. And finally, I know some of you have been waiting for this one, and it could even end up being like a Paul's Security Weekly Challenge or something. Emory University needs volunteers for a human challenge trial, and those are very controversial, but human challenge trials are those things you sign up for at the university when you're broke and you want to buy cigarettes, and you go over to the psych department and they, say, hey, would you be willing to, fight a monkey with a knife to see what happens? Yeah, that kind of stuff. Well, this one is a human challenge trial of a Shigella vaccine. And maybe you don't. I wasn't sure I knew what that was. Shigella is a bacterium that is the main cause of dysentery. Yeah, and dysentery, which is also called the bloody flux, if you can imagine. Let's just say if you get it, it's super messy. And if you got it before the 20th century, you were probably going to die. And I mean, dysentery definitely killed more people than wolves and bears on the Oregon Trail. I mean, if you've ever played that old 8-bit game, that was the first thing you learned when you were playing that game was like, oh, yeah, you have died from dysentery. And you may not even have known what dysentery was, although I kind of did, but I'll tell you about that in a second. But anyway, Emory's recruiting healthy volunteers to test the vaccine, and it's paying thousands of dollars. They said up to $4,000 for doing it. I'm not sure it's worth it, but it might be. Of course, this is a blind study, like a medical study. So some people are going to get the vaccine, some people are going to get a modified vaccine, and some people are getting the placebo, which means you got, saline injected. And then after you do that, you chug a Shigella-laced drink. That's the equivalent of going to a roach coach on the side of the highway in I don't know, Arkansas or somewhere, and it will likely result in bloody explosive diarrhea. At least that's what I saw when I was on a bus once, and a bunch of people ate at a roadside stand, and I actually didn't eat. I mean, I don't mind eating at roadside stands all the time. They're really great, but I didn't actually get anything to eat there because I didn't have a whole lot of money, and so I was just sort of conserving. But all these people on the bus it was grim, let me tell you. But if you're curious about this, you can call or email the contacts in the article. They're still looking for volunteers. I think I'll just go get a taco at the Roach Coach for lunch and take my chances. I will be at the Millennial Alliance CISO meeting in New Orleans next Tuesday. So Aaron is going to fill in on the news. Tyler Robinson will also be in New Orleans with me, which is probably dangerous. But Aaron's always a good time on the news, so be sure and check that out. And if you are going to be in New Orleans next week for that, be sure and stop by and say hello. And that's the news. Thanks, Bradley Barth, and we'll see you next week on the Security Weekly News.